unlike other knowledges. See, you can make do without the knowledge of medicine. Everyone who wants to cure himself or herself of disease doesn't have to be an MBBS. You can go to a doctor and hire the services of the doctor to cure yourself. Similarly, you don't need knowledge of law. You don't need knowledge of chartered accountancy. Thank God for that. But knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is a must. It is essential to life. Without it, however much one may be talented, whatever the pluses one may have in life, at the end of the day, we succeed only in destroying ourselves. Let's take examples. In the field of sport, can you think of a person who has destroyed himself? Maradona, correct. Maradona had tremendous, what a following he had. He was called God. And he completely destroyed himself, indulged and wrecked his body and his talent. On the other hand, in spite of several disadvantages, there was a sportsman who came out winning, and how? Example, Lance Armstrong. In music, there was Elvis Presley, who had a following the likes of which no one in the history of music has ever had. And yet, he literally killed himself. On the other hand, we have examples like Mozart, who came out with divine music in spite of the handicaps that he had. We have A.R. Rahman, closer to home, who came up with fantastic music, and he's just won an Oscar. In corporate life, you have the famous, can you think of someone who's ruined everything? Raju, correct. And someone who built a tremendous empire based on the attitude of giving in corporate life. Tata, correct. Jamshedji Tata and JRD after that. What is it about Saturday? You people seem to be exceedingly alert. So therefore, now the question that arises is, how do you live these principles? How do you balance Vedantic life with worldly life, with materialistic living? This is, I think, quite a few people ask this question. Because one of the questioners said, as long as we're coming here, the 5 days, fine, we talk about sattva, rajas, tamas, we talk about YTD, we talk about all the good, the finer things of life. But when you go back into the world, you get sucked into, tempted, drawn into the materialistic world. So, how do we manage the two? How do you balance the two? Vedanta says, go out and enjoy the world. First thing, the world is meant for you to enjoy. But think of the divine, think of the higher, think of the nobler aspects of life while your senses are contacting the sense objects, while your mind is entertaining itself with whatever it is that is presented by the world. And I can't think of a better example than one of the parables given by Swami Ramatirtha. He said, there was a king, an old king, who did not have an heir. And it was urgent that he find an heir so that he could retire and do whatever else he wanted to do. So he decided that he would start an amusement park slightly better than Disneyland. And he established that on a ground, and he declared, advertised in the papers, on TV, everywhere, that the heir to the kingdom will be the one who spots me in that amusement park, and I guarantee you, I assure you, that I will be there from the time the amusement park opens up in the morning, till the time it shuts in the evening. All that you have to do is enter the amusement park and spot the king. And thousands thronged to the amusement park because they all knew what the king looked like. They were confident that they'd be able to recognize the king. But they didn't bargain for something. And that is that amusement park was constructed in such a magnificent manner that every counter they went to, every option that was available there was so captivating, so entertaining, so alluring, that by the time they went through the first 2 or 3, they completely forgot the mission. And the mission was to find the king. And they got involved in the games that were available, the entertainment that was available, the food counter, food plaza was superb. Those who didn't fall for the games, we Indians, went to the food counter and got stuck there. And about 29 days had gone without anybody spotting the king, and the king was so disillusioned and so despondent. He said, I put in so much effort to find the next king, and I haven't found him yet. And the amusement park was open only for 30 days, 1 month. On the last day, by then, the public had already forgotten. They said, anyway, we are not going to be heirs to the kingdom, so let's just go and enjoy ourselves. They were going again and again and again just to have a good time. On the last day, one bright young man entered the amusement park and went to stall after stall, counter after counter. He scored the whole amusement park. He enjoyed every bit of it. He won many prizes. He ate everything that was available there. But with one exception, one big difference, and that is, he never forgot his mission in entering the amusement park was just to find the king. So wherever he went, in and through the enjoyment, in and through the revelry, in and through the highs that he experienced there, he was constantly looking out for the king. And by sundown, he was tired. He had gone through every nook and corner in that amusement park, and he hadn't seen the king. So he sat on the ledge there, he was tired, and he was about to conclude that the king had played a huge hoax on the citizens. Just then, at dusk, there is always, in a temple, what do you have? Aarti. So, in the corner of that amusement park, of that property, there was one old structure, small structure, that was the only permanent structure in this entire amusement park. And when he heard the Aarti, he suddenly realized, my God, this is the only place where I did not look for the king. And he rushed to that temple. He entered the temple, but the Aarti had already started. So out of sheer deference, he waited. He waited for the Aarti to get over, and he saw the light and the bells, and it was most soothing and calming. But even while the Aarti was going on, he didn't forget the purpose of his entry. As soon as the Aarti was over, he tapped the pujari, the priest, on his shoulder and said, "Turn around, my friend." And there was the king. So what's the message through this parable? You've entered this world. Your sole mission in life is to find the king. And find the king. Who's the king? Yourself. Don't say God. Don't say Atman. Don't say Brahman. Because if you say all these things, you believe he's far off there, somewhere in space, billions of light years away. No. Right here, in the core of your being, is this king. And once you discover the king, once you discover yourself, you become the king of the universe, the ruler of the universe. We've entered this world, and mind you, everything has be set just right. Everything is conducive. Your environment, the people around you, your talent, your intelligence, everything is fixed just right so that you can effortlessly get to that state of self-realization. And you can do it. But the problem is, what's the problem? You don't want it. Simple reason in life why you're not getting it is because you really don't want it. Why don't you want it? You've got carried away by this fantastic amusement park, the world and its perceptions and actions, the emotions and feelings that come to you from the world, the ideas and ideologies, and the physical, emotional, and intellectual excitement in the world is so tempting, so tantalizing, so fulfilling, that you don't even want to look for that permanent being within you. Everything in this amusement park of the world is temporary. And one who enjoys this temporary, passing, fleeting enjoyments, but never forgets that I am in this world only to find the permanent, obtains both. He gets the world and he gets the transcendental. Just as that young man enjoyed every aspect of the amusement park and finally found the king. So, that's it. Enjoy the world, think of the divine. Don't ever forget this. This example was given so that you remember it. If whatever principles are talked about, they evaporate very fast. When you go home, you say, King, amusement park, Disney World. How must you therefore live life? What is the future course of action that is different from how you've been living life now? Very simple. Continue to contact the senses, continue to enjoy sense contact, but let the intellect be in command of the situation. Let the intellect just watch over your sense contact. Scan your sense contact with the intellect. And if the intellect says yes, by all means go ahead and enjoy life. But if the intellect says no for any reason, because it's not in your best interest, follow the courage of your conviction and keep away. Second, the intellect must guide your emotions. Remember one thing, we as human beings have very fine emotions, very divine emotions. But at any time, if that emotion slips out of the control of your intellect, it becomes an insane interaction with the world. So let's take a look at our interactions with the world. The moment the emotions start playing, the intellect gets cowed down. The intellect gets marginalized. The intellect gets overpowered. And then what you're engaging in doesn't make sense to anyone. So, does that mean that you should not have emotions? No, then you'll become like a stone. Then life is not worth living. But when you have emotions, very fine emotions, interact freely with the world through your emotions, but never let them slip out of the suzerainty of your intellect. These two are called shama and dama. Sense control, mind control, the basic qualifications for spiritual life. And the third most important thing is your life must be guided by, led by your subtle intellect or conscience. Subtle intellect or conscience tells you right from wrong, higher from lower. And your conscience always tells you what the right thing is, but you don't listen. Anybody who follows his or her conscience never has any problems in life. But the problem is, it's not convenient to follow your conscience. And because it's not convenient, you justify it like the question the other day. How can I exist without bribing? Now, it's not for me to tell you whether you should bribe or not. It's for you to follow your own conscience. And Vedanta is so universal, so accepting of everything. If your conscience tells you it's right, then it's right for you. There are no absolute rights and wrongs. There is only one absolute right, and that is self, correct. Everything else is wrong, so it doesn't matter. But what matters is, if you violate your conscience, that conscience will not allow you to sleep in peace. It won't let you eat peacefully. It won't let you exist. You will be like a cat on a hot tin roof. Therefore, follow your own conscience. We are not asking you to follow someone else's conscience. Follow your own. And like Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. How many of us have the courage to stand up and follow our own conscience? That's all that you have to do. So the 3D plan of action is dedication. This is karma yoga. Karma yoga is not some complicated rituals that you have to follow. Karma yoga doesn't mean that you have to leave your vocation, your career, and go plant yourself in some Himalayan cave. Karma yoga is continue doing whatever it is that you're doing. Just instill a spirit of service and sacrifice in your activity and see what a huge difference it makes to your life. Tomorrow onwards, every time you go out and act, whether you're conducting business or you're a lawyer or you're a doctor seeing your patients or whatever it is, just infuse your life with this attitude. How can I be of service to you? Inculcate this irresistible desire, almost uncontrollable desire to give, to share, to be of service. This is karma yoga. And continue acting dynamically. Bhakti yoga is not love of God. The moment we say bhakti, you think of, I'll go to Amarnath, and I'll go to Tirupati Balaji, and I'll go to, where else? Shirdi Sai Baba, especially since they have now a direct train. You don't have to go anywhere. Stay exactly as you are, where you are. All you have to do is just root out hatred from your heart. And let's face it, all of us have more than our share of hatred. You say, I don't like this neighbor. I hate the secretary of my building. I can't stand my driver. Or someone in the world there is whom you hate. Pick on that person. That is the acid test of your spiritual level. If there is even one being in the world that you hate, Krishna says you are not a devotee. So, devotion is not praying to God, praying to an unknown entity, swearing love to a person that you don't even know. When you're hating people that you can see, you are interacting with, and you know. Third is discrimination. Discrimination, jnana yoga. Jnana yoga does not mean learning by rote the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, the Quran, or whichever other scripture that you come across. Jnana, knowledge, is just understanding the difference between the permanent and the impermanent.